What's up guys, Asian here again with another PTS video. Today we're going to be going over PTS patch 4.2.1. So this is the most recent PTS patch notes that went live a couple of hours ago. And they did make a couple of balance changes here with some of the more controversial items, so we're just going to quickly go over them and the changes they've made and what this implications these might have for primarily PvE, but we might touch upon PvP implications as well. But I like most of my PvP comments, I will have to consult with a couple of people who are more well versed in PvP than I am to get a full, more complete understanding of what's going on in terms of the PvP effects of these changes. So quickly just going over the new things that they've added in were just two houses. So for those of you who are very into decorating houses, who kind of like to roleplay, you do have two new houses that are in Murkmire. So I think one is in Murkmire, so this is a traditional Argonian home, and then there is a snow globe home, so this one's going to be pretty unique, I think. So for those of you guys who like the housing system, you guys are going to have a lot of fun, I think, decorating these two. And then they're also offering music boxes as new furnishing items, so you can go ahead and play those. I'm guessing it's just like music from either the game or maybe like the bard throughout ESO, but that's generally what's going on there. So they just fixed a couple things with templates, nothing really too much here. And then they did make a couple of fixes here and there. So in Murkmire, art animation we don't really care too much about. So combat and gameplay, and as well as Black Rose Prison. So I did stream, I think, 2 runs of Black Rose Prison, and we kind of talked about my thoughts behind it. So they did change a couple of things with Black Rose Prison. So the hack wings, if you guys remember, those are the ads on stage 2, arena 2 I should say, of Black Rose Prison. So the rake ability can deal damage every half a second instead of every 4 seconds. And they will only try to cast this ability, Furious Talons, when there's somebody in front of them. Now, for Black Rose Prison, they did added critters. That's not that big of a deal here. They did add some immunity to CCs for these effects for these monsters here. So Cleavers, Incinerators, Beastmaster Handlers, Souls of the Void, Infusers. So what I'm assuming this means is that we will not be able to use chains on them anymore. So if you guys remember from the couple of streams that I did, I was able to chain in the Cleavers and the Incinerators in the first arena, and the Beastmasters in the second arena, and I'm guessing Souls of the Void is from the third, and Infusers might be from the fourth arena, so it doesn't seem like we'll be able to chain these in anymore. So this might just be a quick adjustment in strategy. It might just be trying to line of sight them, or it might just be DPS has to focus them down once they spawn in, because these tend to be a little bit more dangerous. They did reduce the health and damage from cold mages. I don't think we got to that point. I'm thinking this is probably arena 3. Infusers, same, they increased the damage and health. They increased the health of Imperial Incinerators, Souls of the Voids, and Infusers and Vet. So a lot of these we didn't quite face off against. Imperial Incinerators were in arena 1, but I'm thinking the rest are either arena 3 or arena 4 mobs. So in Arena 2 specifically, so this is the stage that we got stuck on here, the River Trolls will no longer prevent you from resurrecting. I'm not sure what exactly this means. They reduced the damage of the Rake ability, which is good, because that was what was killing our DPS. Hackwings have proper visual effects when spawning. That's not big that much. Betty Netch's electric discharge can now be dodged, so whenever you hit the Betty Netch, it would like shoot out a ball of electricity at you, and you couldn't dodge it. Now you can. I don't think that's going to be much of a game changer. And then the Hashimoto Shockwave ability can now be dodged and blocked. I'm not sure what ability this is. I think this might be when the Hashimoto like digs its head in the ground and launches out like 5 AoEs. I think that's what it means. Then we make a couple changes to Arena 3 here. So they increased the health for Lady Minara. I'm guessing this is the boss for Arena 3. Skeletons created by Portal will now spread further apart. I'm guessing this is some sort of mechanic. Monsters summoned as part of the Lady Minara encounter will now be summoned further from her location. So I don't know if this is a nerf or just a change. And the portals will now avoid traveling close to the center of the arena. I'm guessing this is another like arena-wide mechanic that you have to deal with. Arena 5, Drake's Cage. They increased the health. Drake now targets more spirits to absorb. I'm guessing this is kind of a boss mechanic here. They increased the time it takes to absorb spirits, so I'm guessing there's some way to interrupt it. They reduced the area of effect from spirit ignition, so this is a nerf. You have less time to cleanse via ritual circle after absorbing 3 spirits. I'm guessing absorbing 3 spirits is part of the mechanic. I'm not 100% sure. So I didn't get to Arena 5 in Black Rose Prison, but it did seem like they changed a couple of things, some nerfs, some buffs. So we'll have to go back into Black Rose Prison again and kind of see how these all changed out. From what I've heard, Mayflower did manage to clear it. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So they have an idea of what all the arenas look like. So we might be able to jump back in and do it again sometime during this week. Everything else doesn't really affect PvE or PvP too much. This is all just like quests, housing, exploration kind of stuff. Alright. Arsinium, Somerset, nothing really too much here. See, Wolf Hunter, again, nothing changed here. Okay, so Kamina gameplay, this is where the real meat starts to happen. So for under Sorcs, they increased the initial resources restored by this ability and its morph by 50%. Alright, so if we go ahead and take a look, I'm going to have to open this in a new window, or new tab I should say, but they increased the initial resources restored by 50%, and if we go back to 4.2.0 and look for Dark Exchange, so it restores half the resources immediately and the other half over 20 seconds. So basically what this is doing is this is increasing basically the amount that you restore. So it's still nerfed compared to live, so you'll be getting 75% rather than the whole 100% that you'd be getting on live right now, but overall you will get a little bit more resources. It's just going to take a longer period of time to get it, because I'm assuming, let's see what the dev comments say. Let's see, do this ability's cast time, we want to have this restore more resources overall comparatively to other abilities. The path's justified. Decided to put it on the initial restore to bring back some of the kick the original ability had. So it does seem like the second half, the over 20 seconds hasn't been changed. Overall you will get more resources back, but it's going to be over a longer period of time. This doesn't quite address Sorc sustain, unfortunately, but this is kind of a buff compared to PTS version 1, 4.2.0. Conjure Ward, it still has the cast time, but you can't interrupt it while you're casting now. So this was kind of in response to the PvP complaints that you can interrupt the casting of the shields, which basically prevents you from casting a shield. You have to CC break out of it, so that costs stamina. So this is kind of addressing that, so you can no longer interrupt somebody who is casting the Sorc shield. Pretty sure that's what they put down here. Yeah. So allowing this ability to be interrupted meant that light armor players would be vulnerable for too long, so they kept the cast time, but they didn't allow it to be interrupted. Under Templars, Crescent Sweep was changed a little bit, so this morph now applies the frontal cone damage bonus to the initial hit and all subsequent ticks. It was only the previous hit, the initial hit originally, but the damage bonus has been reduced to 60%, down from 66%. So this is going to basically increase the damage overall, because now it counts for all the ticks, even though the damage bonus was reduced by 6%. So this is still going to be, this is still a buff, but you will still have to hit somebody right in front of you in order to get that additional damage bonus. Restoring Light, they added a visual effect when you get the magicka back from using Honor of the Dead. This is more of a visual effect. Under Wardens, they reduced the resources restored by the Netch by 20% from current PTS values. So we did take a look at this. A couple of people took a look at it on the PTS for me while I was in class, and it looks like it's still a buff, so it's still more than what it is on live, and it's about 33% more resources restored compared to on live. So it's basically a relative about 50% cut compared to PTS 4.2.0. I haven't seen any stamden parsers or magicka warden parsers yet after this change, but from what people have been saying, it might reduce DPS a little bit, it might reduce sustain a little bit on stamdens, but I have to check in with Lyco, because he's kind of the one who's really the class expert here when it comes to DPS. I'll have to check in with him, what he's been able to pull compared to Nightblade. Seb and Lyco have been kind of comparing stamdens and stamblades, and stamdens in 4.2.0 they were very close together, so I kind of want to check in with them and see whether it's still the case that stamdens are still pulling neck to neck with stamblades, or if this change kind of reduces their DPS a little bit. Light armor, the shield can no longer be interrupted, bringing it in line with the Sorc shields. It still has the cast time, just like the Sorc shield, but you won't be able to interrupt it anymore. Steadfast Ward, Healing Ward, Morph. They removed initial heal from this ability. This was actually in last week's PTS patch, but it wasn't in the patch notes. So the initial heal is actually pretty small to begin with. So I think on live right now it's like a 2k heal or something like that. So it's not that big of a deal, but let's see what the developer comments said. Goal of Steadfast Ward and Morphs is to protect low health targets while other sources of healing are restoring their health. Healing Ward Morph was too powerful because it's providing both a strong shield and healing. Okay, this is complete. I'm sorry, this is complete BS because the initial heal is actually fairly weak compared to other heals. Like I said, on live right now, on a dedicated healer, it's only it's like a 2k heal. On PvE, which if you consider Battle Spirit, that's half, so it's only a 1k heal. So I would argue that this is complete BS. In fact, there's not many people who actually run Healing Ward in PvP. This is more of a PvE morph, and even then, the initial heal is not really worth running. A lot of people tend to run Ward Ally instead. So this rationale, to me, just it doesn't make any sense to me. And then Undo, they just fixed an issue with Undo. Now for item sets, they did change a couple of item sets here. So Destruction Mastery, you won't be able to drop anything that's not a Destruction Staff. So it makes more sense now. Soldier of Anguish, this was one of the new sets. So if we go back to 4.2.0, Soldier of Anguish, it was a medium armor set here, and when you dealt damage with a melee attack, you had a 25% chance to negate the next 5,500 points of healing for 4 seconds. Basically no cooldown. They did change it, they dropped it down to 4,800, and on 4.2.0 you could actually stack this, so if like 2 people wearing Soldier of Anguish and they procced on the same person, it would negate the next 1,100 points of damage rather than kind of re-upping that. So they changed it so that way it can no longer stack with itself, so you'll always get the 4,800 regardless of when it procs. So I'm not sure if it just refreshes itself, or like once that debuff is on you, it has to clear before you can reapply it. I'll have to ask somebody who actually PvPs to do some tests for me, because I have no idea how this works out. In Spell Strategist, there was an issue where only one person was getting the debuff if it was applied to the same target dummy, so now they fixed that, so now multiple players can now benefit from that debuff. So this pretty much brings Spell Strategist, pretty much it's going to be best in slot. If they don't make any other changes, if they don't adjust it anymore, which I think they will, because it'd be pretty dumb for them to not adjust, at least bring it down to 400 maybe or something like that, because right now it's a, if you go to 4.2.0, Spell Strategist right here, when you deal damage with a light attack, you place a mark over your target for 5 seconds, granting you 500 spell damage against your marked target. So combine this with Sororia, and you have a very spell damage forward set. So combined with max stack Sororia with Spell Strategist, you're looking at 1,100 additional spell damage. So I'm anticipating that's going to probably end up being the meta. I do have to do a couple tests to make sure that Spell Strategist, the debuff remains while you're on your back bar. There have been kind of conflicting reports, and I haven't really had time to jump onto the PTS and test it out. But I've heard kind of from both sides of the, it does stay, it doesn't stay, from fairly reliable sources. So I just kind of want to jump in and do my own test to make sure that it does stay while you're on your back bar. But if it does stay on the back bar, then this is basically going to become homogenize pretty much all of the Magic DPS classes. It's going to probably replace Mother's Sorrow, and it's probably going to replace Burning Spellweave. Just because you can pretty much have almost 100% uptime on this. So even if you're getting 90% uptime, that's still 450 spell damage on average, and that's just huge. So compared to Burning Spellweave, you are getting, on average, assuming you can proc Burning Spellweave on cooldown, you're gaining about 200 additional spell damage, and you're losing about 3.8, I think, % spell crit, but you're gaining another 129 spell damage. Because Burning Spellweave is max magicka, spell damage, spell crit. Spell Strategist here is max magicka, spell crit, spell damage, spell damage. You're basically trading some crit for damage there, but your 5-piece is still better than Burning Spellweave. The Mother Sorrow, you're basically trading off spell crit for spell damage, so that's going to probably be dependent on class, but I do see this still winning out on Templars and Nightblades. We'll have to do a couple of tests on PTS, so be on the lookout for that. I'll try to get those in either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how quickly I can get done with some of this work that I have to do for school. But yeah, this is pretty much going to homogenize magicka DPS in terms of sets that they use. So now it's basically going to be the differences between magicka DPS classes for PvE is mainly going to be just what class skills you're able to use and what each class can bring to the table. So I'm not sure whether I like this change or not. I can understand that the desire for classes to be different and distinct from each other, but by introducing a set like this and making it pretty much, I don't want to say it's overpowered, but it is pretty strong. This pretty much defeats the purpose of the minor buff changes that they made, the buffs to the minor buffs like minor sorcery, minor savagery, because, well, now there's really, you know, you're just homogenizing everything now, and I'm kind of on the fence as to whether homogenization is great or not for MMO, especially for something like Elder Scrolls, something in the Elder Scrolls universe where, you know, Oblivion, Skyrim, Morrowind, those are all kind of more open world, open RPG. So I'm kind of on the fence here, but yeah, so I'm going to do a couple tests with Spell Strategist to see how it fares against Mother Sorrow and Burning Spellweave, the meta right now on live, and I'll get back to you guys. I'll hopefully have a video out by Wednesday evening. And that's pretty much it here. The base game, they made a couple of adjustments here and there, but other than that, it's pretty much it in terms of PvE stuff. So overall, I'm glad that they took out the fact that you can interrupt the Sorc shield and the light armor shield, but I still don't think adding a cast time is the right way to do it. Based on your guys' comments, and a lot of you guys tend to PvP more often than I do. Again, I don't consider myself to be PvP well versed in the PvP kind of meta exploration there, so I've been relying a lot on other people to inform me, to teach me kind of what these changes imply for PvP. And a lot of you have been saying that the cast time, you know, the Outcast videos and all of the other reaction videos to these changes are pretty much on the money in terms of it went too far. A lot of you guys mentioned that just having the shields being able to be critable and having the enchant effect shields and now proc on shields, that's more than enough to kind of address shield stacking in PvP. And so I trust your opinions. I do think Zos kind of has an issue with listening to the vocal minority on the official forums rather than asking people who have actual experience in PvE and PvP scenarios. You know, I do think you guys are pretty much like spot on with your analyses in PvP, where having the cast time is not great. It's not the right way to address the issues that they're trying to address here, which is basically shield stacking and shields being considered overpowered in PvP. And from a PvE perspective, having that cast time is still detrimental overall for progression style guilds. Yes, I know I've made a few comments that are basically like it's a learn to play issue, and in some extents it is. You know, the shield changes does kind of put more emphasis now on learning the mechanics, anticipating damage, but at the same time, the way that Zos has been making PvE content more difficult is just to add more one-shots, add more heavy damage, rather than something else. So, you know, having that cast time on the shields, that makes it challenging for a lot of progression style groups. For, you know, the classic example that we all give is VAS hard mode, VCR hard mode. Those are pretty much going to be limited now to, I don't want to say limited, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for progression groups to get to learn because of the Lotus Blast. How are you going to shield through the Lotus Blast if you have a cast time? Because you can't block while you're casting your shield. How do you combat that in a progression guild? Because sure, you can block it and you can have a self-heal slot, you can have a healer focus on you, but there's so much happening in VAS, you're not necessarily going to be able to do that. So is it going to be a death kneel for whoever happens to get the Lotus Blast? Or who knows? So overall, yes, the changes to the interruption is great, that you can't interrupt anymore, but the cast time is still there, and that is what peeves a lot of PvEers and a lot of PvPers. So I still think they went too far. I personally think they should change the cast time to something else to address shield stacking, but it doesn't. I know that Leofa is going to bring this up. He's been taking a lot of feedback from, I believe, the class discords, class rep discords, as well as from Toxic Raiding Environment. So hopefully Zos will be able to kind of hear our complaints and hear what we're saying and make those changes and address the shield stacking in a different way that doesn't negatively, hugely, such impact PvE and PvP at such a negative extent. Is kind of what I want to say here. But overall, not that many balance changes. It's just that changes to interrupt and changes to spell strategist. The next week is probably going to be a little bit more involved with the balance changes, so be on the lookout for that next Monday. So that's pretty much it for this video. Again, I will try to get on the PTS tonight and tomorrow night to try to do some testing, and I'll try to record those and give my thoughts, especially on the spell strategist things, whether that's going to be the next best in slot or not. For magicka DPS, as well as try to explore stamden, because a lot of, like how and Seb have done a lot of testing, and it does seem like stamden is going to be pretty strong in 4.2.0, so kind of want to see how it stacks up in 4.2.1. They changed the Warden Netch resource restore. So that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions or anything you want me to test on the PTS, please leave them down in the comment section below. I will be traveling this weekend, so I will not really be able to do much testing while I'm traveling. But I will try to get in as much as I can tomorrow night, tonight, and Wednesday night. Hope you guys found this video informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.